Just excited, so much going on in our program, and you can't ignore the momentum of players that have left our program that are playing at the highest level, our recruiting efforts, this facility, our fans. So Team 10, this is an exciting way to kick off for fall, and we're looking forward to the next 5 weeks to working hard and growing.
Adam?
Yeah, I know a lot of talk is, especially on the newcomer pitchers. I know you guys brought a lot in, but I wanted to ask you about Teeth. I know when he came to you guys last year, a lot of baseball experience, but no real college baseball experience. Just how did you see him kind of acclimate to his role, and just how much have you seen him grow from when he got here now?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen all the growth yet. I think that's what's exciting to me going into this second fall for him. I remember my experience going from NAIA baseball to the Southeastern Conference, and how the first recruiting cycle, the first season, I'm like, what did I get myself into? And by year two, establishing myself and being more comfortable, I guess, and understanding the game. It doesn't matter really what level it is. It's just figuring out the strategies of what makes each level competitive. That's why I always tell pitchers, if you're a high school guy, help your team win a state championship, be the best player you can there, because our setup's completely different. And then when you leave college baseball and go to professional baseball, it's aluminum versus wood. There's, you're playing with even older players. Each setup for each level is different, and time's a great teacher. And but my early results with Teef is a fighter, and he's absolutely stayed in the fight, and he's been adjustable, flexible, to where we've partnered on some things and trying to figure out the strategies of, seeing it one time, going through it a second time. But I think he's a fighter, adjustable, and has great knowledge. And the reason why we brought him here was to keep us second to none with the advancement of the analytics and technology. And I guess if somebody said, what's old school, I'd have to look in the mirror there. And the goal is still to get to where we balance those two things. And it's still so believable in me and what we do, and by bringing Teef here, that I'm excited to see this growth start to pay off here in this second year.
Yeah.
Butch, do you guys have definitive roster scholarship limits? Talk about, roster management is such a crazy thing now. Talk about dealing with that and what you're having to do.
There's 3 buckets that I'm getting information from. One is nonsense, whatever the world is saying and whatever's out there. SEC head coaches meetings help, but the answer to the question is no. I think we know, what college baseball coaches know, and what we're waiting for is we know that we're going to have 34 players. That seems concrete. Outside of that, the number of scholarships, et cetera, is to be determined. So, and even just coaches talking amongst themselves, and even administrator, if you get once every 2 weeks with somebody above you, you're like, what do you got? Nothing yet, we're working hard. And I get it. So I think we know at 34. I've heard, honestly, I guess, but you can't really take this to the bank. I'm just saying word of mouth. I'm hearing 24 to 34 and anywhere in between. Can you stop recruiting? No. So we've continued to have visits. We just had a 5-week homestand with the football. We had visits each and every week, and we're continuing to try to acquire talent, continuing to try to recruit, understanding that we're waiting for a ton of guidance.
Yeah, Coach, returning guys like Cooper McMurray, Ike Irish, what's it mean to kind of have that leadership back in the locker room, and then obviously the production they bring with the bats as well?
Yeah, Ike, he's getting a lot of publicity, I see, from looking around, and well-deserved. I need to keep him hungry and working hard, just like I need to keep myself hungry and working hard. Cooper McMurray, you just feel like any coach in our league would feel like, man, here's a guy between 12 and 15 home runs and maybe 60 plus RBI, we'll take that. And he's our one injury that we'll talk about, I guess, going into the fall. He had a fracture with a hit by pitch, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. But he's so important to our team. I want him to continue to have a voice. So we're having our first squad game today of our first team practice, and I'm having him coach first base because I need him in the frame. And when he says something, I want people to listen. So I don't need him in the training room while we're squadding. I don't need him in the back of the dugout. guarding the water cooler. I need him in the frame. So those are a couple big people that you mentioned. And to not get too long-winded, I just say everybody else that's a returner on this team got some experience. And whether they got what they wanted or not, or felt like they underachieved or whatever, they have to apply that experience now for something positive. So I'm counting on a lot of guys, especially the guys on the mound. That's still the biggest elephant in the room question mark with the program, is trying to return to a standard of play on the mound. But every one of those guys got some innings and experiences, and can they better that? So it's not just a couple guys that are just proven. It's everybody that got an opportunity to be part of this program, stayed with this program, and continuing to try to grow. These next 5 weeks are huge for our program. Things always change in the spring, but you know what? 90% of this might get etched out. And with no huge stalwart returners on the mound, these 5 weeks are huge for those guys to build some roles. Now, injuries, somebody coming on late, but I'm trying to tell all these first-year guys, things are not going to change as much as you think they might. You can't just come and turn this light switch on in January and be ready to roll. A lot of decisions. We'll see a lot of at-bats, a lot of pitches this fall, and that's going to become crystallized for guys in an evaluation, not just the coaching staff, of like who's going to play and set up certain roles. So these coming 5 weeks starting today might be as impactful 5-week window as any part leading up to the season or during the season for trying to put our best foot forward.
Jason? But you got an impressive freshman class. Obviously a lot between now and having those guys ready to perform in the SEC, but from a physical standpoint, is this one of the more impressive physical groups of young guys that you've had come into a program?
Yeah, some things we've never had. This is now multiple publications have come out and said this is the highest ranked recruiting class in Auburn history. And I believe it is good. We've had 3 players drafted and they all come to school. So there's some things happening with our program. That's what I talk about, momentum with our program. And last year, we've documented, hadn't run from it, taken our medicine, all that, but this is still a program that's hosted a regional 2 of the last 3 years. This is a program that had 11 guys played a major league game this year. That's more than any year we've ever had in the history of our program. I think 2008 may have had 10 guys, and this year we've had 11 former Auburn baseball players playing a major league baseball game. We've had 11 former Auburn players have their major league debut since 2020, which is second in Southeastern Conference. So, we took our medicine. Now there's, that's over with. Now there's like, what are the solutions? Put this thing back together and start driving. We have so much momentum going. That transfer class is good too. I think that's a top 5 class. That's immediate help. What can a freshman do for you immediately? That's been the biggest question mark over 2 decades. These guys are great, gonna be great, gonna play past this level. That's the kind of talent we acquire. But I think of what Coach Dye told me, that I said I was gonna make sure I mention at some point in here, and I think this is appropriate. The less I say, the less I have to take back. I think this is time for us to kind of be quiet. You gotta do your job. I absolutely gonna do everything I can to try to give the information that you asked for. But we need to be quiet for a second. We need to work for 5 weeks here to see where we're at. I think that's our best directive of what we need to be doing. But since the season happened, the first thing we could do was try to go do the best we could to get this great recruiting class to campus, go get the best transfers. We did. And I think I can look anybody in the world in the eye and say that we did that. With help. Because in this new world, you need absolute help. We got it. And so that's allowed us to put our best foot forward. Now this next step is to go out and mix it up the best we can and make this roster as strong as we can. And I'm ready. I'm ready for another Tanner Burns, another Cody Greenhill. I'm ready for some freshman All-American action on the mound. And to the positive, the reason why they probably have decided to delay their gratification is because they know there's opportunity. And they know there's opportunity now. But we got to put the best guys out there. The Southeastern Conference is the best amateur baseball on earth. And whether you're a freshman, no matter what you were ranked or whatever you are, you must earn it. And we'll start doing that today.
Butch, you mentioned this is going to be one of the most crucial 5 weeks for these players. Is that a lot of that had to do with having so many newcomers, and are you doing anything different or more just to have more competition to compete these guys against each other?
Yeah, we got two pretty recent World Series. You know, we got just, you talk about every coach in our league, we know that, like, and not just baseball, just most of our sports, that the SEC is kind of, it's amazing. It's so impressive. And then, you know, I've heard some of the players say, man, I want to be the best team in the league. You know, they're trying to shake something off and talk about aiming high, which I absolutely believe in that. Well, if you're going to be the best team in this league, you're going to have to play better than any team in this league. You got to be the best team on the field. And I don't know, I just think it's good momentum. It's a good focus. You know, our coaches will start coaching bases today in the dugout right beside a guy today. We're trying to get some energy going, some accountability going that we've done in the past, but we're just putting some urgency, but try to get the guys who play with freedom at the same time. How can you be urgent? How can you absolutely be coaching, helping one another? But how can you play free at the same time and play in the moment? Because I think schedules have recently been released, and you can just look at every team in the league and you're like, well, that's a tough schedule, that's a tough schedule, that's a tough schedule. That'll I'm sure I think we had the third toughest schedule in the league last year, and I'm sure when it shakes out, we'll have another one in that category when I look at this schedule. So I'm just, as you can tell, I'm like, I want them free and turning it loose, but I can't give away these 5 weeks. And sometimes I think if you're a first-year player, you're like, how important is the fall? I'm just trying to draw the urgency and how important this is for our team right now, especially for the first-year people.
Whenever I can, I wish I would bring up Auburn to MLB folks I'm talking to. The two big takeaways that you have. One, first one you touched on. It's so hard to get these commits to come to MLB over Auburn. You touched on that. But I was told we're not, like, all the attention's gone to Gatwood, to Terrell. We're not talking about Anthony Trelongo enough. What have you seen from him in live ABs that makes you feel like he can contribute as a freshman?
Yeah, just the approach has been really good. And where it's tough for us, and what I communicate with you, is because this practice and how you go about it, it's establishing a culture. We have been at this since the first day of school, or after the first week of school starting, so we've been at it for a while. But I do think things change today. This will be a real at-bat, you know, and he's shown a great approach, and I think his character is high. Finding a position is, Anthony's not the only one, but just, you know, he's played a little bit of first base, second base, third base, and bounced him around a little bit, just trying to find spots to fill. So I think positionally, where do we lock him into? What do we see him do? But he's not alone in that positional deal. What injury would you potentially have, and all that? But Anthony's character is what I've noticed, and his approach. And then, you know, we'll gain more information starting today that is probably more valuable information when you start with these, you know, real at-bats against one another. You know, some of the pitchers, they have shown really good arms. But there's an Andreas Alvarez that's absolutely performed at a high level. Jackson Sanders. So, you know, a lot of guys are carrying a name, but then, you know, who's really doing it out here? That's a righty and a lefty that are freshmen too, that they hadn't pitched behind anybody. They've absolutely thrown the ball well. And then I'm interested in who's going to get 15% better when it turns into a real game, and that's what we're about to see.
Peter?
Could you just, you know, you mentioned earlier just how important the next 5 weeks are, and, you know, especially with all the newcomers. What is just the biggest thing, I guess, you want to learn about your group over the course of the fall?
I just want each and every day to get closer and closer and closer. I think our coaches are having the guys at their house. The room we sat in here today, we got pizzas last night. We watched you know, what a great time to be a baseball fan with the playoffs starting right now, and to sit here and watch some of these best pitchers in the world do their job and not be separated, but actually organically, optionally be together and talk about it. That's what we need. But my goal is, how close can we get this team, and how much can we kind of drive each other? How much can I be driven to prepare and get something ready, and then they take over? How much can we drive one another in practice? How much can Gabe drive a hitter that if they move out of the way with 2 strikes, is I got to get another bat the rest of the day? Let's go to the next step to try to get our points across. And can we push each other? Can we get closer? And that's what I'm interested in.
Couple calls, Adam.
Yeah, just kind of back to coaching pitchers. I know last year you guys were going into the third straight year of being pitching coach, and of course you returned Teeth, but you also returned Scott Foxhall too, and you're there obviously. Just how valuable is it to have continuity coming to these kids when you're coaching them on the mound?
I think so, and I think it's where it's a challenge when it don't go well. If you're first in the league and you've had 3 in 3 years, it's okay. But when it don't go good, that's the first place to go. I guess the one feature that I'm thinking about as you're asking the question is getting back to something that we've done in the past and we had a ton of success with. So I think this year with these awesome 3 or 4 guys to make it up this year, Fitz being the last one, we've had 16 major league pitchers since 2014. And pretty much all those guys called their own game, and we didn't do that last year. So whoever you want to get after on that, we're returning to having the pitchers run their own show with a ton of help around them, a catcher and a coach, and multiple pitching influences for sure. But that I want to return. I couldn't see last year. When you get down the road, I couldn't see the same conviction and ownership that I'd seen in the past. And if you're saying what's the biggest imprint that I've made, because that's where we all search when there's some adjustments to what we're doing, is putting conviction and ownership back into pitchers. I think they grow more when they have to own it and they can't pass the buck and they can't make an excuse. And I think they prepare better when, they are going to have a say in what they're doing. So I'm the most excited about that with our pitching staff, and I think it's going to help them grow at the highest rate. We used to really be the only ones, and there's a few more in our league that are figuring out and seeing that and growing it, because that's ultimately when we leave here, it's not how good you're not measured by how good a coach you are. What you're measured is how much they learn and can apply and can execute. That's the mark of a coach. It's not what a coach can sit up here and tell you, hey, the X's and O's. The mark of a coach, the measure of a coach, the salt of a coach is when a player leaves, what he knows, what he can do, in my opinion.
Your follow-up.
Yeah, and then I know you guys brought in a few really talented arms from the portal, but Cade Fisher's a guy who was, top of a lot of lists coming from Florida. Really probably could have had pick of litter anywhere he went. But just what went into getting him here, and what do you think really resonated about the program with him that he ultimately decided to choose you guys?
Yeah, he might be more suited to answer that. I just thought it was a fit and a match. I think once he had made a decision that he was in the portal, he looked at the big schools, and for whatever reason, maybe it's because he's next door state in Georgia. Maybe he liked Teeth on the visit. Maybe he liked the ability to run his own show. We were already presenting to this recruiting class. If you come here, you get to do that with our help. But I think culturally it's a fit too. We say it ad nauseum, but you come here, you feel this, and I think this was a rhythm that was attractive to him. I think it was close. I think when we sat down and really outlined what we're trying to do with our pitching staff, and I think, again, the opportunity here was in all caps, neon sign, and flashing, and really needing a left-hander. So we were all in on seeing if he was a match. And after that visit, I think soon after, both sides felt like, this is where this is a go. And so I'm thankful he chose us, but I think there were some attractive features of opportunity. We needed more left-handedness. Pretty close. We're still in the same league that he was competing in. I liked his experience of being in Omaha both years. He's already tried being a starter, and maybe it didn't work out for the whole season, but now in a third year, is it one thing? Is it finding that one thing to stick and go with? And I think it is. I think he's a really good pitcher and has a chance to do well. And what I appreciate is he knows between me and him that today or tomorrow when he pitches, he's got to go out there and earn it. That nothing's given. And I'm glad I've held that line up in this new world of all this stuff. You wouldn't believe what people ask you for. People would ask you like, hey, I need this, and I need to hit here, I need to pitch in this slot, and I need that. And we have not broken those rules, or we haven't broke those barriers. We're not, what I'm trying to send a message today of what kind of momentum this program has, and we haven't crossed those lines. And he'll be a better pitcher for coming here with this real opportunity and earning it. It'll all be given, and he'll get what he wants. But I'm rooting for him. I love the recruiting process with him. And when he left, I really wanted him to say War Eagle, that he was coming here. So far so good. I'm excited about Cade. I think he can take all the experiences that he had in a great program. I think he can bring them here, and if he can absolutely figure out maybe, what's the one thing I can do to make it stick this time, and we can help in that process, I think we got a good one.
Brian, last one?
Butch, you mentioned a few, but of all the newcomers, the freshmen, the transfers, JUCO kids, what has stood out to you about a few of them? What stands out?
And the hitters have been physical. They've absolutely been physical. And again, it's not, the sliders coming, or if it's been some single rhythm, but, above Terrell is absolutely, is exciting to watch play. Chase Fralick would be in that category, another good sized left-handed hitter. That's a freshman. Chris Rembert from Pensacola Catholic has impressed. Those three freshman hitters have just been superb. It gives you a little bit of that Ryan Bliss. These guys might be able to help us early, but then this is the first practice. But at least leading up to here, I'm like, I can't wait to see them in these first scrimmages, because these guys, they don't have to wait a year to get stronger, mature. They're physical enough to play at this level every day right now. And I hope 1, 2, or 3 of them can find a sticking spot, because I think there's still opportunities there. We got enough returners, like we mentioned with McMurray and Ike, and a few of these guys coming back, Ballou. But there's some pieces to be had by some dynamic young players, and the more games they play and the earlier they get on the field, I think just blesses the program for years to come. We talk about these freshmen, but we know track record potential of freshmen. What these freshmen do is solidify our program for the next 3 years, is what they've done. Now we can focus in like who can help us the most now. And then you can take any of those pitchers and just talk about just their skill at the wazoo, but can they hold themselves accountable to missing that much and understanding that that's the difference at this level, whether it's here, or here. All these things are important, and to learn how to play catch. A lot of times these guys with young arms have great arms, and they just want to throw, because that's what the world tells them you have to throw to get drafted, and now we need them to pitch to win, and that's the door we're trying to walk through.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Yep.